What's the word, everybody? Welcome into a new edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand, so find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. Cam Smith with my guy, Drew Stevens of the Bigs. We're coming to everybody before we get closer to that warm weather weekend in Chicago. Drew, it's about to be a moment in the city, and that you can take that positively or you can take that negatively, because when it gets warm in the city of Chicago, people be outside, and it's going to be a lot of activity in the city, especially with this Bulls team playing the way that they've been playing. So I'm coming to you from my luxurious hotel room in Champaign, Illinois, and I'll provide more on that of why I'm in Champaign. But my man Drew is holding things down in Chicago, was at the United Center tonight, and Drew is such a worker and works on his craft and believes in his craft so much that he hustled back to the crib after the Bulls game to record this pod. So, Drew, we appreciate you, my dog. But the Bulls get their fourth straight win in a row. Whoa! 4 straight dubs for this Bulls team. They beat the Brooklyn Nets 116-110 at the United Center, and they're trying to create and draw up as much momentum as they can before they head to the West Coast for this 6-game road trip. So, let's start it here, man, because there was a time where we were thinking, okay, what is this team doing? What's going on? I spoke with K.C. Johnson earlier in this week on this Bulls team, and, play-in, that conversation came up. And K.C. just told viewers and listeners, get ready. The play-in is happening. It's definitely happening. So now with this team and how they're playing, it could look a little different after they come back home after that 6-game road trip, and then they have home games against the Lakers, the Mavericks, and then they go back on the road against one of the best teams in the NBA, the OKC Thunder. But for right now, Drew, this is a team that is squarely in the play-in because the Toronto Raptors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Brooklyn Nets are all at least 5 games back of the Chicago Bulls for that 10th spot. So you were at the UC covering this game, watching this game, and was there post-game and also pre. And you had a conversation with Billy Donovan that was interesting. We'll get to that too. But how would you assess tonight's Bulls game against the Brooklyn Nets? I mean, Coby White, 7th straight game of 20-plus points. He's really stepped into that leadership role with his team vocally and also just with his play. And I've noticed something about Coby that has stood out to me. And he's doing more post and fade, kind of like attacking the lane, kind of getting his body into guys, and either kind of backing them down a little bit and turning with the fade. And so I'm thinking that's something that he's added to his game. But from your vantage point, in your eyes, how would you assess this Bulls win tonight?
It's just a team that seems to be just playing for each other. Damn the lottery balls, damn the fans who are rooting for losses in the interest of them securing better odds of landing a higher pick in this summer's draft. They are playing for each other. They're moving the basketball. They're trying to help each other defensively. Billy Donovan, after the game, spoke to the way that this game started. The Nets opened up with an 8-0 run. He talked about how the Bulls just could not contain the basketball. They ended up leading after the first quarter, 31-30, but trailed essentially the rest of the game until midway through the fourth. They went on a 16-3 run from like 8 seconds left in the third quarter to midway through the fourth quarter. And it's just like the clutch hijinks, man, that happen sometimes with this team is crazy. Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter grabbing offensive rebounds away from the Brooklyn Nets. Huerter's coming up with and ones. Just the type of plays that this team made down the stretch. I don't even know how to explain it, man. They obviously want to win for each other. They are doing what they need to do. Trey Jones is a perfect example of that. He's just one of those guys where he's very Alex Caruso-like in that he's not going to hurt you when he's on the basketball floor. He's going to make positive plays one way or another. We saw that tonight. I think he had a career high in, I want to say, assists and points, if I'm not mistaken. Julian Phillips definitely had a career high in points. He played 34 minutes tonight off the bench, was actually the sixth man tonight. And he came in and gave them a nice little spark, ended up closing the game. If I'm not mistaken, Billy Donovan opted not to go with 𝗏𝗀𝗃 𝗍𝒪 off the bench, who was playing his second game since returning from that calf strain. It was interesting because the three guys who came here in the Zach LaVine trade finished out the game tonight in Tre Jones, Kevin Huerter, and Zach Collins. And Billy just liked the way that group was playing together. He liked what they were doing in the zone defense that he threw at the Nets a time or two in that fourth quarter. Thought that they were helping each other defensively and making the right plays. So it was an interesting game from that standpoint in terms of who he was closing with. You spoke to the fact that Coby White has notched his 7th straight game scoring at least 20 points. And that's the first time he's done that in his career. It's been very interesting to watch Coby these last 7 games because usually when we think of Coby White, we think of somebody who kind of gets hot, especially from downtown. The only other time he had a streak this long, 6 games that is, he shot 48% from 3 on like 9 attempts. This time around, entering tonight's game, as we record this, he was shooting 32% from 3. So the difference is he's getting to the rim, came into tonight's game with a league high 7.2 attempts at the rim for guards. So he's just attacking differently. And I think that speaks to his mindset. It speaks to the teammates who are on the court with him. He's not surrounded by a DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine. Tonight he's playing without Josh Giddey. So when the brunt of the offense failed to Coby White, he had to cook the meal. He had to set the table. He had to do everything tonight. And he got some help, obviously, from Jones and Kevin Huerter and Julian Phillips. But we're seeing Coby White's maturation kind of take another step these last 7 games.
Yeah, and I was talking with Casey earlier this week, and it's almost similar to what we saw from Zach LaVine in terms of how he's matured as a scorer, right? Because Coby is a guy that obviously coming out of North Carolina, you knew that he was a scorer, but also he was labeled as a shooter. And I'm sure he tried to just shed that label because once you get labeled that, it's kind of hard getting out of that. So guys look at you in terms of coaching staffs, like, we just need you to shoot the ball. So don't dribble. Don't try and go to the lane. Don't try and dunk on anybody. Don't try and lay it up. Either in transition, catch and shoot, go onto the corner, catch and shoot, or come off this ball screen and shoot a 3. But it's the next level for Coby. And we've seen this the past couple of seasons with him, even going back to last year when Zach went out and was done for the rest of the year. And Coby was working in tandem with DeMar DeRozan. So he grew from a leadership standpoint in that era. And then also he added that from the work in the offseason, him and Ayo leading the workouts with this Bulls team. You follow it into this season and what he's been able to do. A little streaky with his shot, but also, as you mentioned, he's elevated with what he's been able to do in this recent stretch. And he's just not settling for jump shots because they have too many guys that shoot threes on this team. I mean, this is one of the teams in the NBA, one of the few teams that shoot at the clip in terms of one percentage-wise and also attempts the Bulls do in the NBA. So Coby is mixing up his game and getting to the rim, finishing at the rim, dunking on people. Like, that's the love. That's the thing I love about this year for Coby is that he's like dunking on cats and surprising people and making them realize, like, yeah, I am a full 6'5", and I will dunk on you. So you have that respect factor there as well, which ultimately is going to enhance his game and allow those shots like we saw tonight just become more fluid and have more space and timing with that, because guys don't know what to do when that ball is coming out and swung to Coby. Like, how far do I close out to him? Do I close out to his chest and make him drive? Well, if he drives, then we know he's attacking the lane and finishing strong. Or am I just going to lean and hope that he misses a shot by closing out short? So, again, it's all a maturation process for Coby. I love to see it. He had a team high and a game high of 31 points tonight against the Brooklyn Nets as we record this podcast on this Thursday evening. So Coby White, balling, hooping, for sure has the Bulls. Just like you said, Drew, damn everybody that wants us to tank. Damn everybody that feels that we are not going to be competitive in these ball games. We're not built like that. I knew that when all of that was going on, and people still have those conversations. This team is not just going to go out and lay down, kind of similar to the opponent. in some ways that they played tonight in the Brooklyn Nets and also with the Philadelphia 76ers. This team, this front office, this organization wants to have some sort of postseason life. And right now, that postseason life, if you give a stamp and approval to the play-in being postseason life, then it qualifies. But from what I saw last year against the Atlanta Hawks, fans were waving playoff towels in the play-in. So I see playoff towels. It's playoffs, but I got a different mindset. I think we talked about this when it comes to how I feel on the playoffs. I'm not a fan of the play-in. I think that you have to earn your 8 spots in your respective conference to have it be officially the playoffs, but it's a new era, to each its own. I get it. But this team right now is in the Tennessee in the Eastern Conference play-in. But when you look at down the roster, you mentioned a couple of names, obviously Trey Jones and what he was able to do. But Kevin Huerter, 18 points, 9 rebounds. I believe that's a high for him since he's joined the Bulls with those new rebounds. So this group, again, and you hit it on the head, they're playing for each other. And that's what you want. It may sound cliche and corny, like, oh, yeah, they're playing for each other. They're playing cohesive. They like each other. But you can see it on the court with how they're playing, how that ball is moving, how that offense is flowing, how they're helping each other in terms of rotations defensively, Drew. And it's, at the end of the day, it's good to see for this team as they build chemistry. I mean, you don't know how far that chemistry goes because you don't know who's going to be here next year with this team. But still, I think it's a credit to Billy Donovan and him being able to coach this team and get the best out of these players and even the new guys and have them fit within the system to have success like we've seen with them winning 4 straight games.
Yeah, and these guys are prideful. They're athletes. They want to play to the best of their abilities, and they're getting the exposure. They're getting the time to do that. These are guys who, in Kevin Huerter's case, has seen his career go through some ups and downs and not be the player in Sacramento that he was in Atlanta and have some criticisms thrown his way. We've seen Zach Collins have to go through, what he's gone through in his career, dealing with injuries, dealing with maybe not meeting expectations that people had for him being a lottery pick. So everybody on this team has something to play for. Coby White, trying to show that he can be the focal point of an offense and still be able to carry a team. Josh Giddey playing for a contract. He thinks that he deserves a certain dollar amount, and he's the last, however many games, maybe since the All-Star break, maybe a little bit before that, he is doing what he can do to show that he can be for this team what the front office thinks he can be. So everybody's playing for something. Yeah. Again, you and I, fans, we can feel the way we want to feel about what's in the best interest of this team's or this franchise's long-term health. But these guys don't care, man. They see a game in front of them. They see a certain amount of minutes that they're going to get to prove what they can do on a basketball court, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to go out there and they're going to try to attack the situation the best way that they can. I think one thing I thought that was very interesting after the game on Monday in which they beat the Indiana Pacers, there was a conversation had between, the local beat and Billy Donovan and then Coby White, and they were talking about each other. They were talking about Kobe's maturation and where he was when he first got here and how Billy Donovan was coaching him up. I think, from my perspective, a lot of times I look at obviously development coming only in the form of on court. Like you got to get the minutes. You got to be able to have time on task, if you will, to be able to figure out what you can do, what you can't do in this league, what you need to work on, things of that nature. But I think that Billy Donovan, in speaking to him tonight and also on Monday, he brings up things that don't necessarily click to the forefront of your mind right away, in that, players have to sometimes be helped get out of their own way in terms of learning what it takes to win and not just being about their selves or their stats. Like the little things that you can do to make your teammate better in a certain situation, or a lineup better in a certain situation, maybe passing up a shot to get a teammate a better shot, communicating on the defensive side of the ball, helping guys get in the right spots. Like little things like that, I think go a long way. And I know myself, especially with this season, with what I thought it should have been, and also thinking about 𝗦𝗫 𝗟𝗶 and what he could potentially mean for this franchise, sometimes I lose sight of maybe those little things on the margins that can help a player become a better version of himself, even if it means that he's not on the court, the amount of time that I wish I could see him on the court. So, it's just things that we don't see that Billy Donovan obviously is going to be privy to seeing on a day-to-day basis because he is the head basketball coach in charge of this program. But it just is a reminder that, everything is not always so black and white. And I think that's important for fans to understand and to be able to hear and digest and take whatever they're going to take from it. But Billy Donovan does lay some gems down if you're willing to listen.
Yeah, and I love when Billy speaks to the media and has those conversations with us because he's not sugarcoating anything. He's not ducking any questions. He's answering them straight on. When you think about those rough patches for the Bulls this past season, he was not short on his words. He tried to break down in terms of why rotations weren't working and questions that certain media members had, that they were strong on a certain stance when it came to how this team was playing and would engage Billy with that. And it wasn't like Billy just cut them off. They had a conversation and he explained his reasoning for certain things and what his perspective was as a head coach with this team, given the matchup, given the situation. So it's always levels to it. And some people, when they discuss Billy Donovan and, how he is as a coach, it's just super surface level conversations. And this is not Cam Smith coming at the defense of Billy Donovan. He doesn't need me to put my cape on and help him out. But we're in those locker rooms, Drew. We're at those press conferences. We're seeing and listening to Billy and him being very, very detailed in his answers and his responses to us. And one, you respect it. Then also, two, to your point, when you start to see in the form of like tonight how it's working out, even with 𝗦𝗫, and he said this before the season, like he wanted 𝗦𝗫 to get better and to grow. And you can help players by doing that, not just by giving them a lot of minutes and just say, hey, go out there and play. It's not just that. It's about learning how to be a pro, how to take care of your body, how to really duplicate certain nights where you have good performances and having to do it again. So I think 𝗦𝗫 is a great example of how good and great Billy Donovan, I'll take the good out of it, how great Billy Donovan is as a coach because his track record is proven. Yeah. He's a Naismith Hall of Fame finalist. He should get into the Naismith Hall of Fame just on his basketball resume, and it's just not as a coach. So if you didn't know that Billy Donovan had game back in the day, then you need to watch and do some more research on basketball because he's been around the game for a while. So those are the things that we appreciate from Billy Donovan and his perspective and his basketball IQ and taking us through those moments. So this team, as we mentioned, getting ready for that 6-game West Coast road trip. First opponent is Saturday against the Houston Rockets. And the last time we saw the Bulls and the Houston Rockets was at the United Center back on November 17th. And it wasn't one of the better games for the Bulls. Gave up 80 points in the paint. It was one of those ball games where you're like, burn the film. Like, we don't want to watch that. That was that game. So hopefully the Bulls can try and get their get back because, again, they're looking to continue their win streak, which now sits at 4 games for sure, a season high with this team. But you're looking at this road trip, Drew. I mean, on the outside looking in, when it came to, as we got closer to this, obviously before certain injuries in team play, let's go back to probably, I'd say December, January, more so January, when you saw the upcoming opponents for the Bulls, especially when we got to this point of March of that 6-game West Coast road trip. You're like, ooh, Houston, which we still feel Houston is one of the better teams in the West and trying to make sure they keep themselves supplanted in the Western Conference when it comes to being in the top 6. They sit 5th right now. But also you have games against Utah, Phoenix, Sacramento. Zach LaVine looking for a revenge game with that one. We know DeMar is a great guy, but he's definitely looking for some get back against the Bulls just because DeMar's a competitor. Then you have the Lakers again. You have the Lakers, the Denver Nuggets. So this trip will be interesting to see what team shows up. Josh Giddey, according to Casey Johnson, said that he will make this trip on the West Coast. Casey even tweeted out that, Josh had on some low-cut Chuck Taylors, and you can take it for what it's worth that he wasn't walking with the limp. So take it as a good sign. Take it as it doesn't mean anything, but I think this is something I would notice too, and that's what Casey Johnson, because he's watching it. He's watching it. You not feeling that?
No. What I'm gonna say is you can only take that one way. If you're wearing low top Chuck Taylors, you're feeling pretty good. There's no if,
yeah, I mean, there are no, and it brings up how Bill Russell and cats back in the day, Bob Cousy and Elgin Baylor and Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain were hooping in Chuck Taylors. I don't understand how they did it. There's no comfort, no level of flexibility with that shoe, no support with that shoe at all. So one, yes, I'm putting stock into Josh Giddey and KC's report that he tweeted out that Giddey had on low top Chuck Taylors and walked without a limp. That's impressive to me because I've had a few pair of Chuck Taylors in my day. And why am I saying in my day? Like I'm like 80 years old, but I've rocked some Chuck Taylors and it's not a comfortable shoe. So if he's doing it, and then also more so the guys back in the day, and I'm definitely talking about people that are in the 80s that used to hoop with Chuck Taylors on, man, more power to you. Your ankles are made of concrete. I don't see how the hell y'all did that.
Yeah, it's only one way to take that report. You can't, poo-poo it. If this man is walking around in low-top Chuck Taylors, which I saw for myself as well, saw him out on the United Center floor before the game, taking set shots, obviously not jumping, just trying to get some shots up, go through his as normal or pregame routine as he could. He's feeling good.
Yeah.
Or better, at least better than what we thought he'd be feeling at this point, given how he looked after that injury.
Right, because it's that same ankle injury that he suffered in the Olympics, and also the ankle injury that he suffered early this season that kept him out more games as well. But hey, I would take set shots too if I was shooting 52% from the field and from three in my last 9 games. Why not? I mean, Josh Giddey has been hooping since the All-Star break, and you got to give him his respect on his 21 points and 8 rebounds that he's been averaging. So, yeah, let me get my beef. Let me get my form up. Let me get these shots up just in case I'm able to come back. So it'll be interesting to see what game he comes back for this Bulls team and really what kind of start they get off to with this 6-game road trip as they embark on it. And it's no rest for the weary when they come back home. They have the Lakers, they have the Dallas Mavericks, and they go back out on the road against the OKC Thunder. So we'll see if they can improve their position where they are in the play-in, or maybe Philly or Boston or Toronto decide to say, hey, you know what? Why not? Let's just go for it and go with it. But I doubt it, just the way those teams are playing. So we'll keep our eyes on this trip for this Bulls team. But before we wrap this podcast, I mentioned that I am in Champaign, Illinois, Drew. I am doing the 2A and 4A boys high school state semis and finals. This is, I believe, my 12th year of doing this. And so it's going to be a nice field, especially for 4A, which is already set. I wrapped up the 2A semifinals today. So we have a championship game of Diet on the south side of Chicago Public League, facing off against Belleville-Althoff Catholic. And if that high school sounds familiar, if you're in the state of Illinois, you can remember that they do have somebody in the NBA that won a state championship at Althoff Catholic. And it's currently, as I mentioned, the Bulls play the Lakers. We will see him, hopefully, barring injury, when the Bulls face the Lakers on the 6-game road trip and when he comes to the United Center in Chicago after the Bulls return from their road trip. And his name is Jordan Goodwin. So Jordan Goodwin, a guy that went to SLU, St. Louis University, has played 5 seasons in the NBA, is definitely tapped in to watching Althoff Catholic and his former high school head coach, Greg Lieb, try and bring another trophy back to Southern Illinois. And even Greg Lieb said that he spoke to Jordan Goodwin after this team punched their tickets to the Final Four in Class 2A. But then also you bump it up to Class 3A. I'm just going to get off really quickly, Drew, because I went to Gordon Tech High School. It's the new DePaul College Prep, or DePaul College Prep is the new Gordon Tech. They changed the name and expanded the facilities and the school and the sports and all that stuff. And I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous because they have their own football field, their own soccer field. They're building a new field house for their new basketball court. So a lot going on with DePaul Prep. But more importantly, they have won back-to-back state championships in Class 2A 2 years ago. Then the next year, they won the state championship in Class 3A, first team ever. Again, I'm going to talk my talk right now. First team ever in Illinois high school basketball history to win back-to-back state championships on the boys' side in 2 different classes. Trying to go for the three-peat because they're facing off against a Catholic League rival and a foe in Brother Rice.
Ooh.
And I hate me some Brother Rice. And yes, I'm using the word hate because I never liked Brother Rice playing against them in high school. I beat him, but I never wanted Brother Rice. So that's a personal thing for me
We
against
share
Brother
that.
Rice.
We
But
share that Catholic League brotherhood. There's something about Brother
yeah,
Rice.
man.
Brother Rice.
Yeah, I mean, for us coming from the north side of Chicago, where Gordon Tech is on Addison in California, and making that drive all the way to Brother Rice, for you it was a little easier because you went to 𝗵𝗀. So I mean, the trip was damn near cut in half for y'all. But coming from Addison in California all the way to damn near the hundreds to face off against Brother Rice, we hated that drive when we had to go there. So hopefully my Rams can pull it off and get the win. But then also, Kendall Gill's former school, Rich Central, could possibly be back in the state championship on Saturday night. So it's a Final Four of Rich Township against Warren. And the Warren has a great point guard, young point guard, a sophomore, and Jackson Davis, one of the best point guards in the nation. That's game number 2. And then the first game is Casey Johnson's Evanston Wildcats facing off against Bennett Academy. So, Drew, we could have Casey Johnson's Evanston Wildcats against Kendall Gill's Rich Township Raptors for the 4A state title. I asked KC, if him and Kendall have some kind of gentleman's bet going on, we need to know what it is. Maybe they can do it on Bulls Countdown Live, or they can do it on KC's show, The Fast Break, or KC and Kendall want to come on by the horns and talk their talk after that game and that dust is settled. Hopefully both teams can reach that championship game. I'll be on the broadcast for those games for 2A and 4A. But it'll be interesting to see how things unfold, man. But when you think about the state playoffs in Illinois basketball history, man, what are some of your best memories of that time?
Just trying to get down there, and unfortunately it not panning out. My best shot got thwarted by D Brown and Shannon Brown, and we just couldn't. We didn't make it, man. We tried. We gave a nice little fight, but we didn't have it in us, man. So I'm sour a little bit. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you, man. Even now, just going.
Hey, look. No, look, I never made it. I never made it downstate. For people from that are not from Illinois, or just kind of understanding what we're saying and how we're going to frame this. We're in Chicago, and we play ball in Chicago, high school basketball in Chicago. So the thing that we call it was making it downstate, and downstate will be Central Illinois, which is like the Peoria area or Champaign. So the tournament began in Champaign on the campus of the University of Illinois. At Assembly Halls, now State Farm Center. Then it moved to Peoria for a number of years. That was where, when Drew and I were in high school, that's where if we made it there, would have been playing at Carver Arena in Peoria, Illinois. But now it's back in Champaign, Illinois at the State Farm Center. So we would say, man, making it downstate was always the biggest thing. So I never made it as a player. In fact, the first time that I played on that court at Bradley University was when I was at Southern Illinois. And like we had shoot around in practice, I'm just looking around like, man, I always wanted to make it here. Always wanted to make it here. Didn't do it in high school, but I was able to do it in college. And now as a broadcaster, man. But my memory is thinking about just how difficult it was because it was a 2-class system. You had Class A and you had Class AA. Now there are 4 classes, so it's a little bit easier to make it to downstate. Competition is still tough, but when it was a 2-class system, it was very difficult. Like you're facing off sometimes against a team that had 27 wins in the second round for a regional championship. So those memories for sure are always fun and just competitive, super competitive over those years. But it's one of those things for me, thinking about my junior year when we beat Collin Falls and Loyola Academy, another rival that's a Catholic League foe for us at Gordon Tech, and beating them for the regional championship. We ended up, which is interesting because our paths could have almost collided because we lost to New Trier in the sectional semi. They went on to beat Notre Dame in the sectional championship, and then they went to the United Center to play against Proviso East and D Brown and Shannon Brown, and actually upset Proviso East to make it to Peoria. And that was led by James Romey and the New Trier Trevians and head coach Rick Malnati. So a lot of memories that we have, even me as a broadcaster, thinking about be coverage and calling the games of 𝗬𝗪 Okafor and Jabari Parker and Jalen Brunson and just the magic that was Jalen Brunson at Stevenson High School. So it was some special memories and some special times as a broadcaster.
Yeah, like I said, man, I envy you. Man. Just being down there, even just now, it's something different about high school basketball, especially when the stakes are what they are down there. Just the emotions that go into it. You got seniors who are playing their last high school basketball game with their teammates, the families and friends who are going to be involved and watching and rooting for these players and these teams. It's different, man. It's different. It's obviously they're not being paid. It's just pure for the love of the game type thing, bragging rights to say, like you said, I went downstate, we got downstate, we won it, or we got this close to doing it. So I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous.
Hey, man, it's one of those things that for a lot of these players throughout history, right, no matter what state you're in, if you make it to a Final 8 or a Final 4 or a championship game where you win the championship, it's something that nobody can take away from you. Right. You're going to have your name in history books forever. So I think that's the really dope thing about what these kids are experiencing. And I will sound very, very seasoned. I'm not going to say old right now, but I've heard this before when I was younger. But these young men will understand and really appreciate it more when they get older, when they come back to their respective high schools and they see that plaque or they see that trophy or they see their names in those history books. That's when it's like, yeah, you can't take that away. So you can bring your kids and show your grandkids all those different things of what Pop or Grandpapa used to do or Dad used to do when he played basketball. So it's really dope. So good luck to all the players that are competing for that state championship. I will definitely be on the call for the 2A and 4A games in Champaign, Illinois. Drew will definitely be covering the Bulls. I'll be back covering the Bulls as well when I get back to Chicago after this weekend is wrapped up as we continue to move closer to a warm weather weekend in Chicago. Enjoy it. Be safe out there. And we definitely appreciate everybody for tapping into the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. So find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. The Bulls looking for their 5th straight win on Saturday against the Houston Rockets in Houston. It's the start of their 6-game West Coast road trip. We will see when the dust settles where they'll be after this 6-game West Coast road trip. We appreciate everybody tapping in. For Drew Stevens, I'm Cam Smith. Talk to you next week.